the tech world, you have giants, and then you have the gods who build the heavens they walk on. Meet the man in the iconic leather jacket who, with a quiet intensity and a relentless vision, is powering the entire artificial intelligence revolution. His name is Jensen Huang. His company, Nvidia, after teetering on the brink of collapse for years, has become the most valuable corporation on Earth, recently soaring past a market capitalization of $4 and even $5 trillion. This astronomical success has made him one of the wealthiest people on the planet, with a personal fortune that has exploded to nearly $180 billion. He's the man Mark Zuckerberg called the Taylor Swift of tech, a figure whose influence is so profound that the world of AI seems to bend to his will. But this story doesn't start in a sleek Silicon Valley boardroom. It doesn't begin with venture capital or a silver spoon. Before he built a multi-trillion-dollar empire, before he was crowned the Godfather of AI, he was a 15-year-old kid in a polyester uniform washing dishes on the graveyard shift at Denny's. From the clatter of plates to the hum of the world's most advanced supercomputers, how did one man foresee a future no one else could, and then drag it into existence through sheer force of will? This is the story of Jensen Huang's relentless drive, his unconventional habits, the moments that almost destroyed his company, and the unimaginable wealth born from a vision that is now changing our world forever. Jensen Huang's story begins not in America, but in Tainan, Taiwan, where he was born in 1963. His early life was one of constant motion. When he was just 5, his family moved to Thailand for his father's chemical engineering career. But with civil unrest growing in Thailand, his parents made a decision that would change everything. They would send their sons to America. At the tender age of 9, Jensen and his brother were put on a plane to live with an aunt and uncle in the United States. It was a leap of faith into a country they had only ever seen in pictures. Their relatives, meaning well, enrolled them in what they thought was a prestigious prep school. The reality was a bit different. They had mistakenly sent the 2 young boys to the Oneida Baptist Institute in rural Kentucky, a reform school for troubled youth. For a 9-year-old who barely spoke English, it was a brutal immersion. He was a small foreign kid in a place filled with tough teenagers. He was bullied, he was an outsider, and every day was a lesson in survival. His assigned chore was to clean the boys' bathroom every single day after class, a humbling task that became an early lesson in diligence. Meanwhile, his mother, back in Taiwan and not speaking English herself, would pick 10 random words from the dictionary each day to teach her sons over the phone, a powerful act of will trying to build a bridge of language across the ocean. Looking back, Huang remembers his time in Kentucky more vividly than almost any other period. It was a crucible that forged an unbreakable resilience. He learned to be tough and to focus, skills he would later say were foundational to his work. Amidst the chaos, he also found an outlet in table tennis, even appearing in Sports Illustrated at age 14. After 2 years, his parents finally immigrated to the US themselves, and the family was reunited in Oregon. The boy who emerged from that Kentucky school was different. He was driven, academically accelerated, and possessed a work ethic that was already setting him apart. He skipped 2 grades, surrounded himself with the math and science clubs, and graduated from Aloha High School at the remarkable age of 16. The hardships hadn't broken him, they had sharpened him. They had instilled a profound sense of grit and a deep understanding that nothing would be handed to him. At 15 years old, while still in high school, Jensen Huang got his first official job. It wasn't a cushy tech internship. He became a dishwasher at a local Denny's, later getting promoted to busboy. This experience is something he doesn't just mention in passing. It's listed proudly on his LinkedIn profile, right above founder, president, and CEO of Nvidia. To many, it's a teenage job. To Huang, it was one of the most important lessons of his life. He talks about it with surprising passion. He approached the task not as a chore, but as a system to be optimized. "I was a good dishwasher," Huang has stated. "I planned my work, I was organized, and I was mise en place." That's the language of an engineer, breaking a complex problem into its parts and executing with maximum efficiency. He learned to manage chaos, to perform under the pressure of an endless stream of dirty dishes, to be efficient in every single movement. When he was promoted to busboy, he applied the same mindset. "I was certain I was the best busboy Denny's ever had," he recalled. "I never left the station empty-handed or returned empty-handed." This wasn't just about clearing tables. It was about systems thinking. It was an early, practical education in process optimization that no university could ever teach. More than just efficiency, Denny's taught him about people. It taught him humility. It taught him how to deal with difficult customers under pressure. "It teaches you humility. It teaches you hard work," Huang said. The bustling, high-stress diner was the perfect training ground for the relentless world of startups. The lessons learned while balancing coffee pots were about grit and a commitment to excellence, no matter how small the task. This was his first unofficial MBA, a degree earned not in a classroom, but over a hot sink and a sticky countertop. After graduating high school at just 16, Huang's ambition was clear. He enrolled at Oregon State University, not for prestige, but for its affordable in-state tuition. He plunged into the demanding world of electrical engineering, graduating in 1984. It was here, in the labs of OSU, that the next pivotal piece of his life fell into place. His lab partner was a woman named Lori Mills. They fell in love amidst circuit diagrams and soldering irons, and she would become his wife and lifelong partner. After graduating, Huang entered the heart of Silicon Valley, landing jobs as a microprocessor designer at AMD and later as a director at LSI Logic. He was in the engine room of the computing revolution, designing the very chips that were starting to transform the world. But his ambition wasn't satisfied. He enrolled in graduate night classes at the prestigious Stanford University. Juggling a high-pressure career and advanced studies was a monumental task. But in 1992, he earned his master's degree in electrical engineering. This combination of hands-on industry experience and the rigor of a Stanford education gave him a unique perspective. He understood not only how to build a chip, but why. He saw the bigger picture, the trajectory of computing, and where the next great leap would need to happen. He was becoming obsessed with a different kind of problem: graphics. The emerging world of 3D video games demanded a type of processing that normal CPUs were terrible at. Thousands of tiny calculations that all needed to happen at the same time. A new kind of chip was needed, and Huang believed he knew how to build it. He was now 30 years old, armed with a world-class education, years of industry experience, and a revolutionary idea. The final ingredient was a plan and a place to hatch it. The year was 1993. On his 30th birthday, Jensen Huang met up with two friends and fellow engineers, Chris Malachowski and Curtis Priem. They were all veterans of the chip industry and all convinced that the future of computing lay in a direction everyone else was ignoring. They didn't meet in a sterile office or boardroom. They gathered in a booth at a familiar, unassuming location, a Denny's diner in East San Jose. Huang chose Denny's because of the unlimited coffee and because no one would kick them out. It was the perfect incubator for a huge idea. The trio believed the next wave of computing wouldn't be driven by business spreadsheets, but by video games. They saw that creating realistic 3D graphics was a massive, unsolved problem. They bet that video games would be the killer app to fund the development of a new kind of processor, a graphics processing unit, or GPU. In that Denny's booth, fueled by cheap coffee, they decided to name their new venture. They flirted with Nvision, but Huang suggested a name rooted in the Latin word for envy, Nvidia, because they wanted their competitors to be green with envy. And so, Nvidia was born. The founding was as humble as its location. With $40,000 in the bank, the company officially came into being. But the story of its formal incorporation is even humbler. To file the papers, Huang's lawyer demanded the $200 cash he had in his pocket. Huang then had to go back to his co-founders and ask them each for their $200 share. Their strategy was bold. While the rest of Silicon Valley was focused on general-purpose CPUs, Nvidia was betting its entire existence on a niche market many considered frivolous: video games. They believed that by solving the hardest problems in graphics, they would create a processing architecture so powerful its applications would extend far beyond entertainment. It was an audacious, trillion-dollar bet made in a Denny's booth. The early years of Nvidia were a white-knuckle fight for survival. The company was built on a series of bet the company moments, and Huang has said that at multiple points, Nvidia was just 30 days away from going out of business. Their first product, the NV1, launched in 1995, was a commercial failure. It used a different type of graphics rendering that the market rejected, and the company had spent its limited capital on the wrong technology. It was a devastating blow. Their next big challenge came from a partnership with the gaming giant Sega, which contracted Nvidia to develop the chip for its new Dreamcast console. It seemed like a golden opportunity. But after a year of development, Huang made a terrifying realization. Their chip architecture was, once again, the wrong bet for the PC market. He made the agonizing decision to walk away from the Sega contract, knowing it meant they would be in breach and lose their funding. It was a move that nearly bankrupted them, forcing layoffs of more than half their employees. But the CEO of Sega, impressed by Huang's conviction, threw them a lifeline with a crucial investment that kept the lights on. This brush with death forced a radical new focus. Nvidia poured every remaining resource into a single make-or-break product, the Rive 128. This time, they got it right. The chip was a success, and in 1999, the company finally went public. That same year, they launched the revolutionary GeForce 256, which they marketed as the world's first GPU. However, the late 90s and early 2000s were defined by the graphics wars, a brutal competition against rivals like 3DFX. Then came the dot-com bust. The entire industry was in a freefall. Nvidia survived, but the experience hardened Huang's leadership philosophy. He learned to operate with a permanent sense of paranoia, a belief that disaster was always just around the corner. By the mid-2000s, Nvidia was dominant in gaming, but Huang saw a future for his GPUs that went far beyond making games look realistic. He and his engineers realized that the core architecture of a GPU, a massive collection of simple processors all working in parallel, was perfectly suited for any problem that could be broken down into thousands of simultaneous calculations. The gaming engine they had built was, in essence, a supercomputer on a chip. The problem was, programming a GPU for anything other than graphics was incredibly difficult. To unlock its true potential, Huang knew they had to make it accessible to everyone. This led to one of the most important decisions in the company's history. In 2006, Nvidia launched CUDA, the Compute Unified Device Architecture. CUDA was a software platform that, for the first time, allowed developers to easily harness the massive parallel power of Nvidia GPUs using standard programming languages. It was an audacious move. The company invested billions into developing CUDA, a massive bet on a market that, at the time, barely existed. They gave away the software for free, hoping to create a community of developers who would find new uses for their hardware. Initially, adoption was slow. The first to come were academic researchers and scientists. For years, this was a niche, almost invisible part of Nvidia's business. Wall Street was skeptical. Then, in 2012, everything changed. At a major AI competition, a neural network called AlexNet achieved a breakthrough in image recognition, drastically outperforming all previous models. The secret to its success? It was trained using two Nvidia GeForce GPUs. This was the big bang moment for modern AI. It proved definitively that GPUs were the key to deep learning. Suddenly, Huang's decade-long, multi-billion-dollar bet on CUDA paid off spectacularly. He wasn't just a chip maker anymore. He was the primary arms dealer for the coming AI revolution. He hadn't just stumbled into the AI boom, he had, in many ways, willed it into existence. The AI boom transformed Jensen Huang into a global titan. His net worth soared to nearly $180 billion, placing him among the world's top 10 wealthiest people. This unimaginable wealth has afforded him a lifestyle that is both luxurious and uniquely understated. His real estate portfolio is impressive, including a sprawling home in Los Altos Hills, a magnificent beachfront mansion in Hawaii, and a stunning $38 million modern mansion on San Francisco's Billionaire's Row. Yet, his public persona is defined by a remarkable consistency, embodied by his signature black leather jacket. This isn't a calculated branding move like Steve Jobs' turtleneck. The story is far more practical. For years, his wife Lori and his daughter have been responsible for his clothing. Huang claims most clothes make him itch. When his wife found a leather jacket he was comfortable in, she simply bought several more. What began as a practical solution has evolved into an iconic symbol of his leadership. Consistent, comfortable, and quietly confident. Perhaps most unique is his leadership philosophy. At the helm of a multi-trillion-dollar company, Huang maintains a shockingly flat structure with around 60 direct reports. He also doesn't do one-on-one meetings. His reasoning is rooted in radical transparency. He believes privileged access to information creates power imbalances. By addressing all 60 senior leaders at once, he ensures everyone works from the same information, making the company more agile. This work ethic is balanced by a deep commitment to philanthropy. He and his wife established the Jensen and Lori Huang Foundation, which, thanks to Nvidia's soaring value, has grown to hold assets valued at over $10 billion, making it one of the largest in the United States. Their giving focuses on higher education and STEM initiatives, with massive donations to their alma maters, Oregon State University and Stanford. Despite the scale of their giving, the foundation maintains an incredibly low profile, with no website and no full-time staff, reflecting Huang's own humble, results-oriented approach. Jensen Huang's journey is a masterclass in vision, resilience, and unconventional leadership. From a Denny's dishwasher to the architect of our AI future, his story proves that the greatest empires are often built on the boldest bets. If you found this story inspiring, hit that like button. Subscribe for more deep dives into the minds of tech's greatest visionaries, and let us know in the comments what part of Jensen's story surprised you the most. From a boarding school bathroom in Kentucky to a diner booth in San Jose, from the brink of bankruptcy to the pinnacle of global technology, Jensen Huang's life has been a relentless forward march. He's a leader who embraces failure as a lesson, values humility as a virtue, and engineered the future by focusing on a problem no one else thought mattered. The man in the leather jacket didn't just build a company. He built the platform on which the next generation of innovation is now being created. His legacy isn't just in the chips he sells, but in the future he unlocked for all of us. He is, in every sense of the word, the Godfather of AI.